Hello, everybody. I am totally being a total X-Men. I'm going live on Telegram, and I'm going live on Facebook, and I'm going live on YouTube because why not? We like lots of social media platforms these days. Now I just have to see how I can record this thing on Telegram. There we go. Video and audio. How do I don't, okay. Okay, I don't think it's recording. Start recording. There. No, landscape. Okay, we're here. So, hello, Facebook. Hello, Telegram. Hello, YouTube. It's so fun to be able to do lots of things at once. I love that. That's definitely part of my reality. So, if you're listening on Telegram, you can, make little comments. And if you're listening on Facebook and YouTube, you can also make comments and just say hello. So wow, I've had just the most amazing week. A lot of you guys were part of the Access Consciousness Global Bars weekend last weekend. We had a Global Bars class with 4,000 or so people, plus or minus. The jury is still maybe out with that, or I don't know. And we also had a Global Bars Day with Gary Douglas and Dane here, the founders of Access Consciousness. And then we also had another class with Dane here. Anyway, it was just a weekend extravaganza. I was in Houston, and we had a lot of people online, probably ultimately tens of thousands of people watching, replays and stuff like that. So maybe even more than that. I don't know. But one of the cool things about Access Consciousness is that we do these things, there's so much change that gets created when the energy of things changes. And when people get together to, run bars, which is if you don't know what bars is, it's a hands-on modality that deletes all kinds of stuff, chatter, interference, all the stuff in our heads and in our minds. And really gets you to a place where your brain can relax, your world can relax, you can have more of you, more peace, more ease. It can create a lot of changes in lots of different ways. And with that and all the clearings that we do in Access, there's just this movement of energy that has been rippling through my world this week. That's been a huge gift. And I also facilitated a Business Done Different class this week. That was really phenomenal. So much space. And one of the things that I've looked at a lot in this past week, and, everything that I've been doing, and since the bars class and Business Done Different, is just the reference points are gone. And this is such a gift, because we use reference points to hold things in place. So reference points are these things from our past that we basically kind of orient toward to define what the future is going to be, to define what's possible, to define what is right now even. And I've had such a strong sense this week of so many reference points just being gone, and really not able to look to my past to refer to things to determine what is now and what can be and what will be. And that's been super, super exciting for me. And it can also be really disorienting. It can be one of those moments where we're what's going on? And things might feel weird. They might feel strange. They might feel really exciting. It might seem like everything is suddenly possible. It might, hi, El Dico and Robert on Facebook and people on Telegram. I don't know if I can see who's on YouTube or not. I don't know how that works, but I know I'm streaming there. So, so So without reference points, like that's something I kind of like asked about for a long time. It was like, it'd be really cool to function without reference points, without this like kind of like, because for me, it's like this way that we like carry the baggage of the past around with us at all times. We're like, oh yeah, I've got my past and I've slung it over my back and I'm just, moving along, weighted down by everything and nothing is really possible. um, and what would it be like to just really not have that? And because for me, like when we get to let go of a lot of those reference points is when you actually get to be even more present, even more aware, and even there's like so much more possibility that becomes available because you're no longer like carrying that knapsack of the past with you of full of rocks. It's gone now, and you're like, oh my gosh, I could actually skip and fly and run and jump and explore, and there's so much more ground that I can cover, and there's different places I can go without this thing on my back. And I would say, at least for me, this week has been such an incredible week of the expansion that comes from when a whole lot of people get together to create a whole lot of change. And it's been so cool to explore. Okay, so what's it like to really acknowledge that the world has changed now, and the world is changing. And in the past few years, with everything that's been going on, those of us that know there's a different possibility, or even just sort of like wonder or hope or pray that there's a different possibility, like people have been coming out of the woodwork and starting to go, wait a minute, there's got to be something different here. And now it's like it's really showing up. And but when you don't acknowledge it, that's when things can get wonky. So if you've had a wonky week or a moment or whatever, I wonder like what you're aware of, and if there's things that are just really different that aren't the same anymore. And sometimes it's so simple because all we have to do is just actually acknowledge that and go, yeah, no, things are just different now. And I don't really know how things work anymore. I don't know how to create anymore. I don't know where to go or what to do or how to move in the world. And I don't know, like for me, like my body is changing a lot. And I'm like, wow, okay, cool. Like you show me what you want to do and be. Um, and and so there's just this like real sense of possibility that I've been aware of, and a lot of people that I've talked to this week have been really aware of, and it's been so freaking cool. And I wanted to just come and just play with that a little bit, because so many of us that have been looking for a different possibility in the world, it's like it's our time, and a lot of times things really have to crumble in order for there to be more and something different that shows up. And so many people have so much awareness of like what is actually available. But I know for me, like before I had discovered access consciousness and these particular tools that have just spoken so much to me over the years, I was like, I knew there was something different that was possible, but I was kind of like, I didn't have enough of a sense of it and a sense of me and a sense of like how different I actually was to actually be able to go and, kind of go after it. But I did. I mean, I've always been a seeker, and I, tried lots of different things, and some things worked and some didn't, and some sort of did. And then when I came upon the tools of access consciousness, it was like this invitation of like, hey, what is it that you know? What is it that you're aware of? What if you're an energetic being who functions from energy, not from cognition, not from definition? And as we take things apart in the world and things change in the world, and these like the reference points in the past start to go away, for me, there's been this space of like really getting to step into the difference that I actually am. part of it is just the choice that we make as individuals to go, yeah, I am different, and I'm going to show up as that. I'm going to stop hiding that. And part of it is that the world, in a lot of ways, is more ready for that. And I would say the world is ready. The world becomes more ready for that because when a lot more people actually are like, yeah, let's be something different. Let's have something different in the world. And it's not tangible. It's not like you're going to turn on the news and hear about this, That's not what CNN is talking about, but as all of those things crumble, it's like we get to create a different world, and the world, your point of view creates your reality. So as you like, the viewpoint from which you look at the world it's going to largely determine how the world is going to show up. And this is like something that is so magical that I really, it's hard to even put into words how that occurs, but there's been so much joy and possibility that I've seen this week, like not just for me, but for so many people that I've talked to. And it's like, wow, like what if we could actually be really happy, and what if there is all this stuff going on? And I'm like, okay, well, that's not really my point of view anymore. Like, that's not like, and you can call me delusional, and that's totally fine. I am. I'm having a lot of fun though. So, hey, and creating a lot, and just, yeah. So I'm fine with that. But having this sense of like, I'm creating the world that I would like to see as the difference of me, and inviting other people to be the difference that they are, because the world is not gonna change until like it is changing. It is changing. Let's acknowledge that, right? And as it changes, it is up to us to show up more and more as the difference that we be, and more as these like truly different creatures walking upon this planet that are like, yeah, let's have kindness. Let's have gratitude for each other. Let's have communion with the earth. Let's contribute to each other. Let's have a greater world. And it is showing up. Now, you may or may not, everybody has their own experience. And I spoke a little bit ago to like, okay, so because sometimes things are wonky, and you're like, like everything just changed and I don't really know what to do, And we had some really cool conversations in the Business Done Different class that I did this week about, because it's such a class about creation. And really it's like, okay, so now what? Like, now how do I create, now that what used to work isn't anymore, and what used to work doesn't really work anymore. And there's like all these new energies and totally different energies. How do I create now? And there's so much more to me. It's so much more about asking for what we would like to have and being willing to receive it and allowing for the magic of it to show up. And if we're not looking at things in our lives from those past reference points and the space of like, well, only what's possible is only what has been before. But actually, like, what's possible now is what has never been before. It's a totally new ballgame. It's a totally new world. It's a totally new universe. It's a totally new planet. It's a totally new world of consciousness. We have like, you can have a totally new possibility with your body. You could have a totally new possibility with creation, with your relationships, with how you live, with the earth. All that is actually available. But if you're keeping alive, it's us that keep the past alive, the limitations of it, the impossibility of it alive, by continuing to see the present and the future from how the past used to be. And it's such a disservice to what we're creating and what we would like to have as a now and the future to keep the past alive. We keep it alive until you don't anymore. And you're like, okay, let me look at this with new, fresh eyes. And one of the ways we can do that is by just asking some questions like, okay, so what is actually occurring now? What are the changes that are going on in the world now? What is available now that hasn't been before? And you don't answer the question, but allow it to be in your world. And as you ask for that, like so many different things show up, and the possibility for creating something completely different. It's like here in such a different way. And it's funny to even be doing this Facebook Live, because I think and Telegram Live and all that, because everything I've done before this had so much more definition. And now I'm like, oh, we're really just like exploring energies, and just looking at like so many things that just don't have words. So what I really like, one of the reasons I wanted to do this is just to kind of like speak to some of what's going on right now and the change. Because a lot of times just here, like acknowledging and going, okay, there's a change going on that is like, if you don't acknowledge that something has changed, you have to keep recreating what you were creating before, rather than going, oh, everything that I've asked for is starting to show up. There's a change now. I need to have a new ask for the future, and I need to approach the future in a different way. And sometimes just hearing the conversation can spark those things in our world where we're like, oh, right, everything is different. If I'm approaching my life in the same way, my body in the same way, my business in the same way, my money in the same way, my relationships in the same way, creation in the same way, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you're going back to that past, reigniting it, bringing it alive again to perpetuate it into the future, when that doesn't have to be. And so sometimes just acknowledging that can really change things and give you a different perspective on what is now and what can be. And then it's like, well, okay, so hey world, like what's your new ask? I realized that today in the class I was doing, was like, I really need to have a new ask for what I would like to have as my future and the future of the world, like acknowledging what has come to fruition, and now what is and what will be, in a much more dynamic way than has been possible before. And part of the way that we can like embrace that is by stepping into how different we are as infinite beings and as creatures, like different creatures on the planet. We have this X-Men conversation. It's a specialty class in Access Consciousness, and it's one of the classes that I facilitate. And it's so much about hi Shika. It's so much about really getting out of the wrongness of you and into like starting to see how everything that you think is wrong, and all these, again, reference points and places where we're like, I'm wrong, this is wrong, and starting to see all of that as your capacities. And so many of us have been so aware of the future, but it wasn't quite time for it. And when you're ahead of the game with your energetic presence, with your awareness, with how you function, you're like out in the future. It can be really frustrating because you're perceiving this future, you're aware of a future, you're like playing with the future, but it's not here yet, and X-Men don't have a sense of past, present, or future, like a sense of delineation between those things. And we're like perceiving everything kind of here and now. And that's actually part of the brilliance of X-Men. But if you don't, if like the difference of you, the brilliance of you is, if it goes unacknowledged, it's so easy to be like, either we're frustrated that things aren't showing up or whatever. But it's so easy to judge ourselves rather than actually go, yeah, I things are wonky, things seem different, things seem strange or whatever, because I actually am different, and I actually am aware of a future, and it hasn't shown up yet. And that's, and acknowledging basically the energy of what it is that you're aware of. And as you do that, it gives you access to this really magical space and world of creation and creative possibilities and joy and exuberance. And that's been one of the things that's been showing up for me this week is I'm like, I've been so happy and having so much fun and really seeing like all the places where I've really toned down my exuberance. Because it's just too much for most people, and like, and I don't think I've even really let it rip yet. I know I haven't. And there's a lot of messaging in the world of like, stay in this, don't get to anything, because if you get to anything, then it's not going to work for this person and that person and this person and that person. And you know what? Like, that's done. That is done. There's so much magic that's available now that for me, I'm like, I'm just gonna go for it because it's way too boring to stay small. It's way too boring to stay normal. It's way too boring to be slow. It's way too boring to try to fit into everybody. It's way too boring to try to live from reference points. Like, I like to live in a world, and I do live in a world, and I will continue to live in a world where things change all the time. Magic is available, miracles are available. We can change things like that. We can ask for things and they can show up like that. That is the world that I wish to live in and choose to live in. And that is what is showing up in my life and in a lot of people that I've talked to this week. And I would say a huge part of it is let that past be gone. It changed. The world changed. And if that's light for you, great. And if it's not, that's okay too. Like, you can, it's not about everybody like believing the same thing or anything like that. But if there's a lightness to what I'm saying, then great. Like, acknowledge what you know about that and bring to it what you know about it and what resonates for you. And then where would you like to go from here? What is your new ask for the future? Because again, I just want to restate this, that if you are asking, or like say it in a different way, if you've been asking for something and it shows up, because so much of what occurs is so energetic, it shows up and it shows up energetically. And as things show up energetically, the physical actualization follows, right? The energetic change is what occurs first, and then the physical actualization follows. And these days it's pretty quick, the kind of like progression of that. But as you're like, if whatever it is that you've been asking for is showing up or has shown up, and sometimes it shows up in a way that doesn't look like you thought it would, so you don't realize it, acknowledge it. Otherwise you have to actually destroy it and go back to what you asked for before, thinking that it still isn't here, continuing to ask for it, but you have to destroy it to keep trying to create it, but it's already been created. So instead of that, what if you could be like, hey, I have a new ask now, like a greater ask, and I'm going to acknowledge what has changed, what has shown up, how different the world is, how different my life is. And now what? Now is one of my favorite questions. Now what? Because you can't have reference points when you ask that question. You can't seek to bring the past into the future when you have that question. It's an acknowledgement of like, everything's different. Now what? Now what would you like to create? Now what would you like to have? Now what would you like to ask for? Now what would you like to acknowledge that you already, that is here, that you maybe didn't acknowledge? How much fun can you have? And where would you like to go from here? And like, what if you could upgrade your asks every day and have that sense of like new and more and greater all the freaking time? So everything that doesn't allow that, let's destroy and uncreate it. And we just have our little beautiful access consciousness clearing statement: right, wrong, good, bad, online, hawk, pod, shorts, boys, pubs, and beyonds, which is basically a weird, wacky, energetic tool that just deletes a bunch of stuff. You don't have to know how it works or what it is. It just delete. Truly, if you were actually choosing right now the future that you would love to create and that you would love to have, like a future that actually truly works for you and is exciting for you, makes you want to bound out of bed every morning, brings like infuses your world, your life, your days with this like dynamic enthusiasm for being alive and for creation, what would that be? And what if you could dare to ask for that? Because one of the things I also realized in this past week was I was like, "God, there's things that I haven't been willing to ask for because I didn't think I could have them. I didn't think it was possible. And these are tools that I play with a lot. And I was like, well, geez, there's a lot that I didn't think was possible, so I didn't bother to ask for it. Well, what if you could change that now? And what if you could start asking for totally different things, way more, way greater than you thought you could, because the universe is different, the world is different. The world actually has changed so much to actually support those asks even more than it was even a week ago. It's a different playground of ask and receive. And so turn it up, people. That's basically my long-winded message. Turn it up, everybody. Let's go. Let's have something really, really different. I am just about to leave on Wednesday for Europe. I'm coming to Europe. I'm so excited for 3 weeks. I'm going to be there, a whole bunch of classes with Dane here, energetic synthesis of being, the symphony of possibilities, the maestro class. I'm going to be doing an X-Men class online while I'm there. I'm also going to be doing a 3-day body class with Kalpana Raguraman in Rome. It's going to be a big 3 weeks. And I'm just really excited for, some online stuff, and there's just so much going on. And I'm really excited to see where we go, what opens up, what becomes even more available with all of this stuff in the next little bit here. I am just really, it's like, oh man, this is what I've been asking for a long time. It's here, it's showing up, it's our time, it's our world. How does it get better? And thank you for being here, for being you. And truly, if you could ask for absolutely anything and nothing was impossible, nothing was off limits, what would it be? Because you may want to get audacious with your asks, because there's an opening for it in a way that there has not been before. And how the heck does it get better than that? So thanks everybody for being here. Thanks for being you. And I'll hope to see you somewhere in the world sometime soon or online. Take care. Bye.